Never
We
shall
live?
innocent blood be
I
shed.
guess we don't have an intro.
Yet the blood of the wicked shall flow like a river. The
Hey.
three shall spread their blackened wings and be the vengeful striking hammer of God.
Plutarch. It's
You
only
people
me.
have been chosen
Wow.
to reveal our existence to the world. You will witness what happens here today, and you will tell of it later. All eyes to the front. You must watch, dear. It'll all be over soon.
Now you will receive us. We do not ask for your poor or your hungry. We do not want your tired and sick.
It is your corrupt we claim.
It is your evil that will be sought by us.
With every breath, we shall hunt them down.
Each day we will spill their blood till it rains down from the skies.
Do not kill, do not rape, do not steal. These are principles which every man of every faith can embrace.
These are not polite suggestions. These are codes of behavior. And those of you that ignore them will pay the dearest cost.
There are varying degrees of evil. We urge you lesser forms of filth, not to push the bounds and cross over into true corruption, into our domain.
For if you do, one day you will look behind you and you will see we three. And on that day, you will reap it.
And we will send you to whatever God you wish.
And shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee. Power hath descended forth from thy hand. May swiftly carry out thy command. So we shall flow ever forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be.
In nomine Patri.
Et Filii, Spiritus Sancti. How far are we gonna take this,
The question is not how far. The question is, do you possess the Constitution? The depth of faith to go as far as is needed?
Well, are all three of us showing up now? I see Nick is on mute.
Well, Nick's having internet issues today.
Yeah, I didn't see
Yes,
intro load on StreamYard, but it showed up on YouTube and X when I checked, so I don't know what's going on. But welcome, guys, to another episode of the Resurgence of Sanity. At the request of Cappy, that's Aaron Clary, we are reviewing his latest work entitled I Don't Want a Threesome with Jesus, subtitled The Christian's Guide to a Pro-Sex Marriage. Any comments about the title, guys?
Yeah. I find the title mildly offensive, but I also think it's brilliant because it creates controversy. Just imagine a guy buys this book, brings it home, and reads it, and then leaves it on the table. And then his woman gets all upset, and with this title, she cannot help but read it. And you know what? It's just brilliant because people might be incensed enough to buy it to disagree, but then read it. So yeah, good title.
All I'm going to say is I had to cross out the title to make it YouTube friendly, shall we say? So I think Cappy knew what he was doing when he did it, and because if you read the book, he acknowledges that he's not a Christian, that he doesn't find. I mean, he's obviously read bits of the Bible. Somebody, and he says again at the opening of the book that he called up Christians and had them point him in the direction he needed to go. So it works as a title.
No.
Just not for YouTube.
Cool. Yeah, would I ever entitle a book this? Oh, probably not. And it's probably, as a Christian, I don't think it's wise to use this title, but it was purposely inflammatory. And I think this is a subject we've brought up before about, Jesus is my boyfriend and you'll never measure up to my Jesus, where, false Christians or simpy Christians or conformist Christians, they'll insert Jesus unnecessarily and idolatrously into the marital relationship. And so it's essentially, in a crass way, this threesome but of course it's not with a real Jesus, it's with this idolatrous mindset, of course. And of course, I'm a faithful Presbyterian. I don't like pictures of Jesus, so I really don't like the cover. But that's pretty much neither here nor there for most people. So,
Well, I think people need to know a little bit about Aaron Clary.
right?
Uh,
Well, what do you guys
I
think
have
about
known.
Cappy?
Okay, I've known about him for 15 years. We conversed or interacted briefly on some blogs back 2011. Kind of coexisted since then. He lived in Minneapolis. I lived in Wayzata. We have similar experiences. I'm a bit older than him. But okay, his background is he grew up in Wisconsin. His father was a pastor in the Wisconsin Synod Lutheran Church. Okay, Wisconsin Synod is a small off branch of Missouri Synod. And Missouri Synod is an off branch of typical Lutheran, closer to a Catholic understanding of things. So Cappy does know Christianity. He's not a practicing Christian. He doesn't call himself a Christian, but to say that he is ignorant of what Christianity teaches, he's not. Cappy is, from observing him, listening to his stuff. Oh, yes, he talks big and whatnot. But generally, I think he's a man of great moral character. And he's a man of great insight. So I like listening to him. I like his rants. He is a challenging person in a good way.
Dark, anything to add?
Well, I've read a number of his books, and I actually enjoy reading his books because he doesn't spend a lot of time on fluff. The Book of Numbers, great little book, short, easy to read. I read it in about 6 hours, and then I handed it to my dad, and my dad read through it in about 8. And it was, for my dad, it was kind of an eye-opening book. You read the number about, oh yeah, 10% of women under the age of 25 are on an OF, and you go, wait, what? But then you read his data and math, and you go, well, yeah, okay, can't argue with him. And that's a lot of what the kind of stuff Cappy does. It's like you read it, you go, just like the title of the book, you read it and you go, I don't like that, but I understand what he's saying. And so let's see, the other book I've read, I have it up here. I buy the Kindle version of his books because I like taking notes that way. The other one was A World Without Men. As you guys know, I'm big into economics and finance, so I've enjoyed his take on that. He did work for, I believe it was Morgan Stanley. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Cappy. So big investment
bank.
It
was Wells Fargo.
Okay, well, he worked for a very, very large bank. And so he knows the economic side. And this book was interesting because he really doesn't talk about economics, but he brings that same sort of, he talks about economics a little bit because he can't help himself, but he brought the same style of writing and brutal logic that he brought to his economics book to this one. And I appreciated that. As we get into it, I have my notes and my things where I'm like, but there's a whole chapter where I'm just like, okay, Cappy, mainline this straight into my veins because it is true. And sometimes I felt like he was channeling some things we've said before. I don't know, maybe he's one of our silent viewers.
I think he's just on a parallel thinking track.
Yeah, that's more likely. But yeah.
Oh, we got to mention his other, maybe the greatest book he's written to try and help the most people. It's called Worthless: The Young Person's Indispensable Guide to Choosing the Right Major.
About the only book of his I haven't read because it was too late for me. That's a great
book. I bought that book. I didn't need it. I bought it for others. I'm not sure it went to any good use, but it's a very insightful book. Most people are getting worthless college majors, especially women.
I did.
Yes.
Follow your dreams and it'll all come true, said the boomer promises. The Cappy like boomers?
No.
No. Well,
yeah, if you watch any of his videos, he has an intro about boomers. Good stuff.
Go back to his economics books. If you look at the economic data just from a raw, here's the tabular data form, and you make a time series out of it. Everything starts to go wrong when the boomers get power. Like, and it's across any data set you care to imagine. And so if you're somebody like Cappy, who is very definitely an Xer, looking up at his boomer, I don't want to call them necessarily parents, but maybe older siblings, you've got to be, and I think a lot of Xers like him are thinking, what the fuck were you guys thinking when you did all this? So, I mean, that's my personal view of X or boomers as well.
Most of Cappy's view of boomers comes from his work experience. Obviously, well above average intelligence guy. No, Cappy's not a midwit. No.
Nope.
He's up there, 130 IQ to 140. He's up there. So he worked for all these boomers. Every one of us did. I mean, I'm a borderline boomer Xer. I worked for all the boomers. There was no upward mobility. And these people just said, okay, do it this way. You were hitting the ceiling about how far you could move because all these boomers were ahead of them. There was no chance for advancement. And these were not smart people. Well, has nothing to do with boomers. Most people are not all that smart. Doesn't matter what generation. So if you are, let's theoretically say, a little bit smarter than the average boss, which high IQ people often experience that. Yeah, it's not going to go well. And you go, oh my God, the stupidity in this organization is astounding. And the bigger the organization, the greater the stupidity at the upper levels. I've experienced that.
And he also had the HR Karens that take over. He doesn't like them either. He doesn't like boomers. Doesn't like HR Karens. He's what I call one of the red pill curmudgeons.
Well, he's correct, because it was the boomers that enabled and indeed encouraged the HR Karens to become a thing. It was boomers who built that whole edifice. So he's an intelligent man who intelligently figured out what the root cause of the problem was and puts his finger on it and goes, well, there you go. And he kind of does that in this book too, even if he does it in a crass way.
Yeah. In fact, so we can circle back to the book. Thank you, Pluto. That was great. He says this in the beginning of his book. It's page 7. He said this is his modus operandi. He says, I basically find out whatever petty lies being perpetrated among society to make normies, conformies, and inferiors feel good about themselves. And then in a very direct, blunt, and even hurtful way, tell them the truth. I then monetize the predictable outrage on different social media platforms.
So
I kind of think that also went into the title of the book as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we should be more outraged so that we can help him monetize it on social media.
Yeah.
Can I explain this function? I think this is brilliant.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to add something to the stage. The devil's advocate. Let me read this. The advocatus diaboli, Latin for devil's advocate, is a former political position within the Catholic Church, the promoter of the faith, one who argued against the canonization of saints of a candidate to uncover any character flaws or misrepresentation of the evidence favoring canonization. I gotta scroll and I gotta rearrange things here. Oh, Nope. Click the wrong button. Okay, let's see.
Boomer
In
mode.
common parlance, the phrase devil's advocate describes a situation where someone, given a certain point of view, takes a position they do not necessarily agree with, or simply an alternative position from the accepted norm, for the sake of debate, or to explore the thought further using valid reasoning that both disagrees with the subject at hand and proves their own point valid. Despite being medieval in origin, this idiomatic expression is one of the most popular present day English idioms used to express the concept of arguing against something without actually being committed to the contrary view. Playing devil's advocate is considered a form of the Socratic method. I think that's enough. Let me point out Cappy is arguing against Christian marriage. But he actually wants Christian marriage to be true. He wants Christians to do well. He's arguing that they're not, that the way they're practicing is kind of false and maybe a farce because it doesn't work out all that well. The Christian men who stay married are not getting sex. The Christian women are kind of lording over the men. They got this servant leader model where the Christian women are being Christian Karens, boss babes, and telling the men what to do, and it's just not working well, and the divorce rate is high. He is playing devil's advocate. He's pointing out the elephant in the room. And the Christians are saying, oh no, it's wonderful for us. And then they're saying, it's so wonderful to us. We advocate that all you young men should just man up and marry those single women sluts. So Cappy is doing us a great service by playing devil's advocate. And now, if you cannot, as a Christian, if you cannot refute what he's saying with proof and the way you're living, he's got a point. If you just want to, just demonize him for the language he's using or shoot the messenger, you're wrong. Does he capture the reality of Christian married life? That's my question for you. And the reality of Christian dating. Does he capture that?
I think so. Plutarch.
I'm not going to be able to follow that monologue up there, Steve.
Hey, I can rant. You know what? Let's put my rants up against Cappy's rants. Let's see who's the more ranty.
I think we all know somebody here who can get him beat. But back to the book. It says, I have in my notes, usually when I did reviews of books and academia and all that, they always, and even in sermons, it was always stressed, what are you talking about? What's the main point? What's the big idea? What is the big idea, the thesis statement, the main idea? Is it clearly enunciated in your book? And I think it's enunciated, but my criticism of the book would be this. I wrote, there was no obviously clear stated thesis to point to, but at the same time, you can't really miss the point of the book by reading. But I guess you could call it a guide to having a decent sex life as a Christian. I think I boiled down his thesis statement, even though it wasn't clearly called, on page 11 of first chapter. He says, this calls for a blunt and factual treatise on sex within Christianity, especially from an independent, secular, outside third party who has no vested interest in Christianity, but is also not handicapped by its religious taboos and can therefore speak truthfully and freely about sex within the church. A sort of olive branch to Christian men from their secular brothers who frankly can't stand watching innocent people be abused, especially by their own. So if you're really looking for it, I think you can find it, even though I think it's pretty much clear from the title what he's talking about. Also, this is a point we've talked about. Here he's doing the red pill here is actually trying to accomplish a moral good. For Christians specifically.
You know, there are a couple of times in the book where I was just like, okay, Cappy, just close the loop on your thought process here. Just close it. You'll get where we got. Just come on, man. You're 90% of the way there. And this one he actually did. But as we get deeper into the book, there's a couple I want to point out, and I have them highlighted here. But the problem is, I think that the red pill sees itself as trying to market itself to people who think that, frankly, morality is bad, that you should just do whatever. But that, and as we talked about, morality itself that is a form of morality, is saying, oh, well, I have no morality. Yeah, that's a form of morality. It's do what thou willst morality. It's a morality that a toddler would recognize, and it has its drawbacks. But if the goal of the red pill is to speak to those people, then I get where it's coming from, but I don't think it will work in the long term. That's a topic for a whole different stream, though.
Yeah, well, we did a stream on that.
We did a couple.
There was a theme in the red pill. Red pill is amoral. We did a stream. No, it's not. Red pill is moral because it's seeking good. So we've addressed that.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a thesis statement for Cappy's book. You just have to really kind of dial down, pay attention. It's not clearly outlined for you. It's be my kind of criticism, but it's sort of there. Then he goes on to the specifics to address in his book, which are on pages 11 through 12. It's well listed. There's 5 points and 3 caveats. I'll read some of them. So specifically, this treatise will do the following. It will explain why Christians have 2 sets of rules they must abide by, both natural secular laws and religious laws. It will explain how natural secular laws are inviolable and must be considered to have a happy, successful, enjoyable sex life. It will explain how sex works, regardless of what the Bible, pastors, or trad wife, mommy, and flourish say it should. It will then identify the many different people who have an unauthorized vested interest, as well as warped, perverse incentives to dictate to Christian men, and frankly all other men, what their sex lives should be. And that was point 3. Point 4 was, we will then explain what a healthy, ideal sex life should be, void of guilt, judgment, influence, or criticism from these various irrelevant people. And finally, 5, it will provide you both secular and biblical solutions to getting the best Christian sex life you can have, absent of criticism, critique, shame, etc. So 5 goals clearly outlined, and the question is, did he accomplish these goals? But he does give 3 caveats. 1, this treatise is fully aware that there are healthy Christian couples with a wife loves the man loves the wife, and they enjoy sex with each other. Right? Okay, and he goes, and says, he concludes that point saying, congratulations, I'm glad you have a great sex life. This book isn't for you. 2, second half, due to time constraints during writing of this treatise, there's not going to be a fully edited, polished product that my regular readers are accustomed to. And might be why my side point would be that might be why you don't see clearly outlined in a thesis statement and other parts. So it's not fully edited. And 3, his last caveat, I curse in this book. Please don't be that Christian who complains about it.
Well, we swear on this channel too, so we're not going to be the ones to complain about it, Cappy. You'll have to go find some other stuffy reviewer.
Do you guys think he accomplished his thesis, specifically the 5 points within this work?
It's hard to say. I guess I would simplify his thesis just to say the problem exists. Guys, if you're Christian and married, yeah, you're not the only one who's feeling this and questioning things. This issue exists. And so he's giving permission for man to understand, hey, they're not alone. And if I distill his thesis down to that, creating awareness, absolutely, he accomplished that, because many men feel this, and the red pill is where they can articulate it. But many Christian men are afraid of the red pill because they've been warned away from it. So creating awareness, that he is furthering that goal.
Yeah, I see this honestly as a book that men should be handing their Christian sons. Not because it's a book that is, well, as he says, wholesome and free of swearing and edifying to God, because I don't think he was trying for that. And his treatise and points make it pretty clear he's not trying for that. But there's this funny thing that happens when you decide that the truth can only be pursued in a certain way. And that is, there become pieces of the truth that you simply can't find. We've talked about this before. You know, in fact, when we were talking about the red pill being a moral good, one of the points we made was that because Christianity refuses to look at what's going on in this part of the world, the red pill popped up because the truth always comes out somewhere. And if the Christians are unwilling to look at the truth because that truth is presented in a way that they find to be, well, you know, that's just not very that's just not a very Christian way of describing the truth. Okay, but is it truth or not? But he swore. Yeah, okay. Is it true or not? And me personally, I keep going back to that. And I don't think that Cappy does anybody any disservice here, Christian or otherwise. And non-Christians could read this book too and learn something from it. In fact, they could learn quite a bit about what's going on in the church, although some of his stuff very clearly shows that he hasn't been involved with the church in a while. And I have notes and questions for him on that. But if you're a Christian man, and I don't know if we're far enough along in Nick's notes here, but he actually gets to a point where he says it's okay to be a man. And that right there, probably the most wholesome, edifying, godly thing one man can say to another is, it's okay to be a man. and it's okay to want the things that men want. But because there's a swear word in it, and frankly, guys, there's not actually that much swearing in this book. There's a little bit.
It really isn't.
Yeah,
Isn't that much.
exactly. But if you're going to throw away this book and throw away the red pill because it says unkind things that you don't want to hear, you're not saying anything about Cappy or the red pill or us. Really, the only thing that you're saying is that you're a weak man who God has no use for. What was it? Jesus said, about he would the tepid, he would spit them out. It's like you're so weak that your own God is going to spit you out of his mouth because he can't stand you. Love him or hate him, Cappy takes a stance and defends it. Far more respectable than the "oh no, he swore" crowd.
Fair enough. I do think overall he accomplishes his thesis and his points. I do think when we get to solutions, there's one thing that we've talked about in our group, and as a criticism to some of the, not all of the red pill, because this is actually a red pill point, but it's a lot of times left off. He doesn't talk much about frame in the book. You could say it's sort of implicit in the questions he asks, but I think it's also a necessary aspect in the book, and I didn't really see much about
okay, Nick.
Maintaining.
Are you getting ahead of yourself here, Nick?
He might be.
I am.
Okay, let's follow your
You can
outline.
leave that off if you want and address it at the end.
No, we'll get back to it.
Okay.
Oh, will we ever? I have notes on that topic.
Okay. I don't think it was intentional for him to leave it out. It was an oversight. I get it. Shall we continue?
Sure.
All right. Chapter 2. It's entitled Two Sets of Rules with One Hand Tied Behind Your Back. He says the statement, and then he gives the illustration to the statement, which I appreciate. He says the problem is Christianity isn't the only set of rules you have to abide by. There's a whole other set of rules you have to follow, and these rules are called the real world.
Or, as we like to call it around here, natural law.
Absolutely. And he does talk about
there's
the
more
reality.
than that. Hold on.
Go ahead, Steve.
Natural law, I would put, in my mind, Christian rules abide by natural law. They're on one side. The worldly rules are the rules of divorce court, false accusations, men and women are equal. Whatever she says is true. Just the reality of a man is always to blame. Those are the real world things. Those are not natural law.
Yeah, that's the reality of the fallen and broken world. Yes. There's this reality, though, that Christians, they're only lazy. He talks about being, I use this word, he didn't really call it this. This is my summation of it. Here he talks about in this chapter the reality of many Christians only being lay biblicists, basically the religious rules only, ignoring the natural world in light of natural law, which also could include what Steve talked about, the observations of the world around you, what's going on. What are your circumstances?
That's kind of like what Christians like to do, looking through the Bible till they find a verse that tells them what they want to believe, and just taking that verse out of context and then interpreting it to say, see, here's what it means. Women are adept at this. But lots of Christian men do it too.
That was one of them, and then I started getting into studying natural law. Then I started looking at the red pills like, huh, they're saying a lot of the same things here, interacting with some of the same reality. Like William Googe talks about the problems of Christian wives back in 1622. And I'm saying, Christians addressed this stuff back in the day. But if you talk about it now in the church, the hysteria erupts and the white knights and simps will come after you. But he does talk about that in the book too, which is really nice later on. I have a subtle criticism of him, and I don't fault him for it. He's not a theologian, even though he did grow up in a Christian background. He kind of falls into this common error of pretty much understanding the natural law to only apply to the second table of law, where it encompasses, when in reality, the natural law encompasses all 10 commandments, both tables of the law. He also refers to the secular law as an alternative. Again, I disagree because I don't want to concede ground to an atheist. However, I don't want to lose the picture of what's going on and what he's trying to say. So, yeah, I think he's a little wrong in his description of natural law, but the realities he's talking about is correct. The reality of Christian men ignoring reality in the natural law is absolutely correct. I had a great takeaway from the chapter. He says on page 18, you must not only obey the real world rules and laws of nature, but you must aggressively embrace them and obey them, just as you do the religious ones. Otherwise, you will fail. Do you guys have any other comments or quotes on this
I
chapter
can
you wanted to
illustrate
share?
this. It's been said, and I don't know who gets credit for, I don't know who gets credit for saying this. There are no Christian women in a divorce court. That implies there are two sets of rules, the secular rules and the Christian rules. And once you're in a divorce court and your wife is divorcing you, she is not going to abide by any of the Christian rules. Now, there's no statistical proof of this. It's only anecdotal proof, because virtually all men will say this. Yep, that was my experience. She was no longer a Christian once she filed for divorce, and we were in a knockdown dragout. But for some reason, men still pull their punches in divorce court because they don't want to devastate their ex-wives. They do want to preserve her relationship with the children and his relationship with the children. Okay, that's absolutely true. The woman wants to destroy his relationship with the children and falsely, through lies and narratives and whatever, show or teach the children that she is oh so virtuous and just had to do that. So, yes, there are two sets of rules here.
You know, he makes a lot about in the book about in this chapter about how playing by two sets of rules is more difficult, and I agree. It is more difficult to have to. He uses a baseball analogy. He says, playing by the religious rules is like trying to play baseball with one hand while being forced to pitch with your weak arm and having to run 6 bases instead of 4 to score a run. Meanwhile, secular people can just abide by the normal rules of baseball and enjoy themselves a much easier game. It's very true. Not going to argue with any of that. But one of the things that I have found to also be true is that as a guy who does have to follow both sets of rules, it's a lot easier to play the normal baseball game. You know, it's kind of like physical fitness, right? If you're a marathon runner, but you train like you're going to run what do they call those, ultra marathons? Well, then the actual marathon seems almost trivial by comparison, right? So yeah, I have to play by more rules, but when it comes time to play just, by the secular side of the rules, when those are the only rules on the board, man, it does not feel that hard to do at all. Now, you can say, oh, but then you're not playing by the other side of the rules. It's like, well, I still am, but the following the rules of the secular world are trivial if you have to follow the rules of both. It's a lot less work if you're used to it.
There's a caveat here, Plutarch. What you say is true. For a man who understands that he has the authority, for a dominant man, that's true. For a man who's trying to please his wife, it's absolutely not true.
Well, yes.
Because then the man who's trying to please his wife, who sees he's equal but the junior partner to his wife, he is trying to balance those two sets of rules, and he will fail. It's impossible from that standpoint.
What I would say is that there are the biblical rules, and then there are the religious rules. And later on in life, I kind of realized that the religious rules, some of them, not all of them, but some of them had no basis in the biblical rules. Like you can't actually find biblical support for them. They're made up for other reasons, shall we say. Again, we're not going to get into that in this stream. We've dealt with it elsewhere. And so if you just focus on the biblical rules, the religious rules that matter take care of themselves, and the ones that aren't in the biblical rules, okay, those are a little more on the optional side of the world.
Okay. If you're going to define it that way, I'm going to say there's 3 sets of the rules.
Okay.
3 sets of rules. Biblical, religious, and secular.
Yeah.
Okay. What falls in the secular range? Telling your wife, no, you can't spend that money.
Yep.
No. And then she says, oh, he was practicing financial abuse. That is not religious. That's not biblical. That's completely secular.
There are you've actually made an interesting point here, Steve. There are rules, there are religious rules that have been adopted from the secular feminist world. And that's what you've actually described there. The religion made a rule out of something that was not in the Bible, but they weaseled their way to it, and then they created a religious rule out of a in this case a secular law.
Yeah, I'll go with you there. It comes to bring it full circle. Egalitarianism or even complementarianism is religious based, not biblical based. And then once you believe in egalitarianism, then you can assign these other things under that category
Mhm.
and call anything abuse.
Okay.
All right, Nick. I think we've finished that one up. Is
All
your
right, on to
internet?
the chapter 3, the secular rules of sex. All right, he says, a quote from that chapter is, "The problem, however, is in today's society, the secular laws governing sex are taboo, and more modernly have become villainized, even criminal. You cannot speak candidly or honestly about them. This is largely, though not solely, due to feminism's general hatred of men, or at least their weaponization of sex for political and victimization purposes. That has in turn made any intelligent, productive, and public conversation about sex nearly impossible." End quote.
Well, that's true in the US. I think you got to remember the US is not typical of Christianity throughout the ages and practiced in different places. The US was first settled by Puritans. So we have a puritanical view of sex, which is repress the discussion of that. I contend that this kind of discussion is not historically as repressive in Europe or in other areas of the world where Christianity historically was practiced.
Okay. Well, did you have any other comments or takeaways about this chapter, guys, or quotes you wanted to share?
Uh, no, I think this chapter a lot of red pill guys are going to recognize it, but frankly, even Christian men are going to recognize what they're seeing in here. They might disagree with it, um, and in fact, we actually got around to the three different versions of the rules. He uses different ones than we do. That's there than we came up with. We split the religious ones into three subcategories because we're nerds. But like even when he talks about, so he talks about the secular rules, and he talks about the religious rules, and I think most Christians would probably just go, well, yeah, this is what I've lived. He does a pretty good summary of the stats that we've covered. He's covered the whole of the red pill is covered. Genome studies and the OkCupid studies, and you know studies of prostitution, that kind of stuff. So one that I did find interesting in this one is this is a quote: "Using testosterone as a proxy for sexual interest, women only have a 6.7% interest in sex as men do." Now, obviously, if you're a man who's ever been in a relationship with a woman who has a higher sex drive than you, you know that this is not a universalism. But I thought that one was interesting because he goes through and he kind of describes, well, for a lot of reasons, it's not actually that good for women to be as interested sexually as men are. They carry more of a physical burden than men do, and that's all true. Um, so it's natural to expect that their interest would be lower, but that's not to say that it's none, or as and it turns out then the book goes into this later that it depends quite a bit on other things. So
So he has all these stats and great red pill stats and talking points on these things on pages 22 through 34. I do have a critique, and not all Christians will agree. And Gabby's like, yeah, that's why I put it. And he has a reliance upon supposed studies on evolution, well, on studies on evolution and evopsych to state the makeup of men and women. And I don't think this is necessarily and not exactly orthodox historical in the biblical position, yet some Christian denominations are more accepting of that reality or that viewpoint of evolution.
I have a comment there. I think pretty much across the board, Christians don't want to accept the real nature of women, the true nature of women. They want to believe women are not as based or sinful, hedonistic. Their desires are not as, for lack of a better word, deviant as men. And so they want to kind of come into that through the back door. So they cite these other things. When if you read the Bible, yeah, the desires of women are not really all that pure. When you look at their behavior, the Bible talks about a lot of impure behavior by women. Oh, yeah. I mean, men always know our impurities and failings. But Christian men don't really want to acknowledge that all women have a whole bunch of failings and a dark side too.
Well, it looks like we lost Nick there. He's been having internet troubles all day. So I think the point Cappy's trying to make here is this, because he's building up to something in a later chapter, is that it's not enough for women that you're Christian. Okay, the women want you. Yeah, no worries. There, we'll put you back up. We'll put you back up there. Later on in the book, he's going to talk about the different factions of women. And there is very definitely a faction of women that want you to believe that being a Christian is enough for a woman, and that should be everything that she has to do in a relationship. I think even the Bible makes it pretty clear that that's not the case if you bother to read it. But yeah.
All right. I'm going to conclude chapter 3 summary with his own words. Says, no, couples therapy will not bring back your sex life. No, prayer will not make your wife want to have sex again. No, nagging your husband will not end his porn use. Sorry. That's his book, YouTube, not me. No, finding God will not cure lust. Being hot will.
Oh, okay. So that last sentence is actually where I have to take issue with, because you're going to see this being hot will repeat throughout the rest of the book, and we've talked about this. There is a strain of the red pill, right? The dominant strain of the red pill right now is what we would call looks maxers. This belief that all you really have to do to get the woman you want is to be hot. And
Certainly helps.
I'm not going to say it doesn't help, but this is kind of cope, because and this one got me thinking more than anything else. It's like, how do I describe this succinctly? And I realized it comes down to a mistake that women make. So think of all the girl boss women that you know, right? You know, what do they tell how many times have we seen on Fresh and Fit these women come on and they say, what do they talk about as the thing that's going to attract and keep the man they want? Oh, well, I can do this and I can do that and I have this skill and that skill. That is women projecting what they value in a man onto how they think a man should value them. Okay? Saying that women want a man who is hot and that is the ultimate lever that will get you women is making the same mistake. Why? Because what do men want in a woman? And throughout this book, he's, you know, if you're a woman, being hot will absolutely get you what you want, but being a girl boss won't. So when you tell men, oh, just be hot, just go to the gym and look ripped, you know, and that will get you what you want. No, it will not. Because guys, I'll be perfectly honest. I am late 30s and losing my hair. You know, like it's a thing that happens to some of us. Genetics is what it is. Hot is not something that's going to be within reach of me. But I discovered a drug that's 10 times more powerful to women, 10 times more effective, and that is power. Okay? Women get weak in the knees for men who have power. They literally can't help themselves. For exactly what I was talking about with the girl boss. She gets weak in the knees for men with power. So she assumes that men will get weak in the knees for her if she has power. This is not true. Okay. And so there are just endless examples of ugly men with lots of power who have hot women crawling all over them. Here, you know, one of my favorite examples. Tom Brady is a very good looking man, especially for his age. He also had a lot of wealth. So he had the money and the muscles. But Gisele Bündchen still left him for a dude that can literally snap a man's neck. Why? Because he had more power that she found. He had a type of power that she found attractive in a way that she just couldn't with the looks alone, the looks and money of Tom Brady. For a woman, I don't care how good looking you are. And think about all the good looking guys out there who can't keep a woman to save their lives. And we like to say, oh, well, that's just because they don't have, they don't have this and they don't have that. No, they have money, they have muscles, they have game. What they don't have is frame. And so
can I
go ahead,
jump in here? Yes, money, red pill advocates get money, muscles, and game. Then go out and find a woman. And if you have that, you can pick the woman, and then she will have genuine burning desire for you. And you have reached nirvana. And just maintain your money, muscles, and game, and she will maintain her genuine burning desire. And it's all great. That's it. No. What Plutarch is saying, power. Well, I take power, and he mentioned frame. Power is, yes, it's power, but that doesn't mean you're telling someone what to do. It's having frame, and it's having dominance. Dominance
Bingo.
is I'm in control of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I control my environment. I am on my adventure. You can come along with me on my adventure. I'll track myself. I am not accountable to you. You are my woman. I am not accountable to my woman. I am accountable to God, and I will act in a moral way, regardless of what you say. And what you say, if you think you're going to tell me how to morally act, get out of here. I follow a greater thing. And for the atheists or people who don't believe in God, it doesn't matter. It's the morality within you. Your sense of right and wrong is what you should follow. You don't need a woman telling you what to do. A man's word is his bond. A man gives his word, he abides by that. Is that because he took an oath to God? No, it's within him. So it's dominance. And it's having this command of his person and the way he's going to live his life. That is the key, not money, muscles, and game. I think that's another way of saying exactly what Plutarch was saying.
Yeah.
Money muscle game's important, but without frame, I mean,
Well, go ahead, Nick.
but without frame, it's you're just setting yourself up for her to leave you.
Well, of course, because the moment she finds somebody with a little bit more frame than you, a little bit more dominance, a little bit more power, whatever it is she's seeking, she's gone. Money, muscles, and game is an attempt to buy a woman. And you can do it if you have enough of those. Frame and dominance is how you keep a woman. And, rest in peace, Thor. I think he understood this better than pretty much anyone alive in the red pill right now. And as you guys know, Thor was all about working out and staying in shape.
It was.
That is not a bad thing. But he didn't label his book, looks maxing to and workouts for this, for the sake of finding a woman. He labeled it a dominant masculine presence, because that is the thing that actually keeps women around. And so Ryan Stone, you guys know who he is, 8 hours ago or 9 hours ago now, made a fantastic post on Twitter on exactly this topic. And here's what Ryan Stone says. What a guy thinks, quote, I have abs. Women will love this. What a woman thinks. He has abs. He will make me feel bad for eating ice cream and is high maintenance. Ryan Stone is 120% correct here. For a woman, and my wife has told me this straight up. My woman views, Elena views looks maxing men as competition. And she has no particular desire to compete with the guy she likes, because it turns the relationship into a competition. And you're not going to have a good relationship if your relationship's a competition. It's just not possible. So, I want to do that shout out to Ryan, because he just absolutely knocked it out of the park. And he's kind of calling bullshit on the looks maxing red pill, because it doesn't actually work. You can if your goal is short term, it actually works great. But for Christians particularly, we're not really interested in short term. And that's something that's a quote unquote rule that I can pull out of the Bible. So for Christians, being hot isn't really the right answer. Being powerful, that's the answer.
So we ready to move on to chapter 4?
Yeah. This was his shortest chapter, and I think my shortest commentary. It's chapter 4 is the religious rules of sex. Here, Cappy admits his confusion on the subject. but indeed there is confusion across the board, but especially amongst those who do not even hold to the Bible that call themselves Christians. There's a whole group of people out there that call themselves Christians that don't even hold to the tenets of the Bible. Nonetheless, I think he could have done better here in this chapter, but at least he admits he is somewhat ignorant. But he does get down to the basics. He says, quote, "The truth is there are not that many Christian rules governing sex. Have it within the confines of marriage. Do not commit the sin of bitter lust, whether that's coveting, adultery, or obsessive sexual thoughts. Do not put sex before God." It's page 37. If you want to look up rules, you can go to like Leviticus 18. There's a set of rules there worth looking into. One of my cancelable moments when I was a licentiate in the PCAs, I dared preach on Leviticus 18, offended people for basically just reading the Bible. But yeah, go look at Leviticus 18. There's some good rules. You guys have any comments about this?
I have an observation. So, Cappy doesn't claim to be a Christian. He's not legally married, but he is in a monogamous, exclusive relationship. He doesn't talk a lot about his woman, but she's in the background. From everything that I hear him say and from his behavior and what he doesn't say, yep, he's faithful to her. He doesn't have much time for all the women out there showing skin on the internet. He's got no interest in multiple women. So I would say, even though he's not a practicing Christian, he pretty much lives this morality. I'm not declaring that. I'm not swearing on that. I'm just saying, by my observation, yeah, I think he lives a pretty moral life. Now, you can criticize him for not being officially married, but yeah, officially married doesn't mean much when I compare it to what happens to officially married people. The amount of infidelity, the amount of divorces. He's still with the same woman. So how can you critique that? There's a commitment there.
Anything, Plutarch?
Nope. Short chapter.
All right, we can
I like it.
move on. Chapter 5. People who insist on controlling your sex life. Man, we talk about a lot of this on our channel.
Nick, I said at the beginning,
groups names we've named.
Well, Nick, I said at the beginning there was a chapter that just inject all of it straight into my veins. This is the chapter.
Yeah. I call this a wonderfully done takedown of prudes, feminists, white knights, and miserable people. He starts off speaking about accusations of the sexual kind. That's a danger to your sex life. That's pages 38 to 39. Men should read about this. It is a true reality. There's some terrible people out there that'll accuse a man of all sorts of crap just because they can get away with it or some sort of revenge. But he has categories throughout this chapter, starting on page 39, categories and subcategories of malicious actors in your sex life, and they are as follows. Number 1, miserable people. What make up miserable people? He has 3 subcategories. Spinsters and prudes. That's 1. Feminists. And 3rd, simps. And the second category is external enemies to Christianity. Feminists, Democrats, leftist political parties, transformers, gay groups, corporations and employers. Third category is fake or compromised Christians. And these are feminist pastors, political pastors, feminist political parishioners, prophet pastors, grifter pastors, Elena's favorite, trad wife, mommy bloggers, influencers, other internet influencers and grifters, retired porn stars, and bots. And fourth category, manipulative Christian women. And I didn't find any subtitles under that category. Where do you guys want to start on that?
Okay. Miserable people, I think we all know who they are. He picked up on something that we've talked about, the pastors who are compromised. He picked up on that. Now he did say something in here that I was like, probably not true. He's talking about simps, okay? And he says, for the most part, your average Christian man is not going to run into them in the real world. There's most definitely a place you are going to run into them online. And I actually thought about that and I went, no, the church is actually packed to the rafters with simps. But this is one of those things where if he hasn't been to a church in a while, he wouldn't know that's what it is. So I give him a pass here because it's more like he just doesn't know. Like he kind of assumes that churches are still doing what they're supposed to be doing. No, and we've talked about this before. The churches are overrun with sims.
Nick and I will both back you up on this. In a divorce, the wife, soon to be ex-wife, makes false accusation, says she's a victim, he did this, he did that. And all the men in the church line up to support her. And you know what? They each want to take their turn driving the bus that runs him over.
That's kind of true. Oh, and all the feminist women there are cheering them on to do it. And Cappy says this of the feminist women. Unlike vampires, feminism can enter a church, and it most certainly has. Worse, it has supplanted Christ in many churches, though these can be considered dead branches of Christianity. Yeah. Your pastor may also be compromised in fear of backlash if he were to say feminist politics, let alone any politics, have no place in the church, and supplant spineless, obedient male parishioners. May also bend the knee to feminism out of fear of politeness or hope of getting laid.
In other words, sneaky fucker game is alive and well within churches.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
For the average hen-packed husband, all he tried, that's his modus operandi. Sneaky fucker game to get a piece of ass. If you can please her enough, be nice enough, maybe she'll throw him a bone. Or maybe he can bury his bone then. However you want to look at it.
Steve, you dog.
Double on there.
It might even be a triple.
That might be it.
So he talks about feminists and he talks about them. How do I and this is one of those ones where I was like, oh, Cappy, you're so close. The feminists have, and this is something I've been thinking about. I don't know if there's a whole show in this or not. But the feminists have actually, broadly speaking, co-opted the church at this point. And one of my notes here is this, yeah, that used to be true in the 90s and maybe the 2000s, where he's talking about, let me see if I've got it's wrong direction. Okay, so he's talking here about, feminists, they have their main interest in Christian men's sex life is denying men's sex and denying the traditional nuclear family. And that because Christians skew right politically, that threatens feminist Marxist aim. That's true, but then if we go forward a couple more pages, he starts talking about Democrats and leftists and how what they actually want is the churches to pledge fealty, allegiance, and subservience to their socialist religion. And he actually does a great teardown of a lot of Christian. It's later in the chapter, but of how a lot of Christians are sort of these nominal Christians who go to church, but socialism is their real religion. So if the church contradicts it, then the church is wrong, kind of thing. I absolutely agree with that. But the reality is that the modern day church has by and large been turned into an army for feminism, which is why in the past 10 years or so, you really don't see the feminists attacking the church a lot. Churches are putting, the pride flags up, as we showed last week. Churches are putting pride flags up. Churches they're swearing fealty and allegiance to some of the most extreme leftist causes out there. So this is kind of one of those things that was the feminist tactic 20 to 30 years ago. But in the modern church, the church is so co-opted that the church now has utility to leftists and feminists. And so they're actually not that interested in destroying it. They get too much value out of the church now.
A concrete institution. And leftists like to control institutions. That's what they do.
Correct. Absolutely. Particularly the Gramscian leftists, the Gramscian Marxists. And I would say that in large part, and this is stuff that was happening even when I was growing up, in large part, the feminist goal was never actually to get rid of the church. It was to figure out how to conquer and control the church. It took them a while, but they actually succeeded. And that's why you don't see them really going after the church much anymore. It does their bidding. You don't crush something that does what you want it to do. You get it to do more of that, which is, I think that's what the feminists are working on right now, just trying to consolidate their control and get the church to do more of what they want to do. And you see that with Nick, what were we talking about a couple weeks ago? The first female bishop of Canterbury, I think.
Oh, yeah, that
right.
Abomination.
Right. Well, exactly. They are now focusing on consolidating their power over the church using things like this. So this is kind of those ones where it's like Cappy's view of the church is pretty obviously looks like that's when he left. And some of the stuff he writes here is like, oh, well, that's what it was when I was last in the church.
Let me summarize. The church is not resistance to modernity. The church is occupied territory.
Correct. Yeah, but what about trad wives, guys?
LARP.
Aren't they traditional?
No.
He says, first, they're pretty, but dwindling so. Second, if they do have kids, expect them to show them off because to Christian girl boss lifestylers, everything is a tool to make money. Third, like other grifters, they use drama and internet fights to market their brand. Finally,
it's essentially
an underlying tone of feminism.
It's essentially act like this to get control over your husband. That's
Yeah.
the message they have.
They get
which
attention,
is something.
control, and money. Yep.
Yes, and this is something that, as you followers of our channel well know, my wife will spend many, many hours screaming against. This is probably her favorite topic in the whole wide world, is how trad wives are using the Bible to get attention and clout. And I don't know if you've been following her Twitter, but she finally got a victory last night, I think. She called out she finally got one of those trad wife influencer types to admit that she's really just wants to be on big name podcasts. And so she's been much happier for today, because she finally got one.
I noticed.
Nick.
Hey, you know why I read that though, right?
Yes.
Oh, and they also talk about in his book, he talks about the retired corn stars. And he gives this quote by Rollo Tomasi, which pretty much sums it up. Christianity is where whores go to retire. And he says the only reason, then Cappy says, the only reason they find Jesus is because, frankly, Christians are the only ones dumb enough to have them.
It's true. Christians are the only ones dumb enough to take them.
Now, look, from a Christian standpoint, look, if they actually do repent of their sins and want to live a quiet life away from the limelight and don't want to have a public presence, I'm all for that. Okay? Repent from your feminism, repent from all that, but I am not going to put you up in front on a podium and sponsor your books and your podcasts and all the other crap where you keep trying to get attention from simps.
Well, I need to do a plug for Elena's Saturday stream right here. I suggested a title. I'm not going to tell you the title yet, but it was a concept that I'm sure you've heard the phrase. Patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. And that's referring to men. Okay, what would apply to women? Christianity is the last refuge of a whore. So I think we're going to do a stream on that on Saturday.
Oh, she's looking forward to this. She's already planning, Steve. So yes, okay. You are. Nick, I actually had a quote I wanted to read when him talking about the trad wife mommy bloggers.
Go ahead.
So the one right before this retired corn star thing. First, I am going to steal Baron Karen and scumbucket skis of a banker. I am stealing those. But Baron Karen is phenomenal. So when he talks about trad wife mommy bloggers, he talks about, he starts with, much as I hate banker scumbuckets turned self-declared internet pastors, which is what he was talking about, grifter pastors before. He goes on to, and he's basically describing how even those people, scumbucket skis bankers, have nothing on trad wife mommy bloggers, because if she can pull off the switch from socialist feminist party girl, adult child girl boss to monetized Christian MILF influencer, she will never have to work a real job in her life ever again. They're faker than the tits on the whores on Access Vegas. And that is so true. And you see variations of it, like, and this gets to the retired porn star thing, is these women, they come in, and if they can convince you men that they were really Christian influencers with an appropriately deep V-neck on their blouses, they will never have to work again, because you can be a monetized Christian milfy influencer for the rest of your life. You can't be a corn star for the rest of your life. The looks fade, that all goes away. You can't do that anymore. So it is imperative for the trad wife mommy blogger to switch from I'm a hot socialist party girl boss to Christian MILF influencer. She's still selling sex. She's just doing it in a more moderated way. And the rest of the section, he goes on to just, how to, identify them. This one particularly, I'm going to bring it up because, again, Elena she'll love this. If he says, second, if they do have kids, expect them to show off, because to Christian girl boss mommy lifestylers, everything is a tool to make money. Whether it's their kid, their husband, their McMansion, or them praying in the church, they will use everyone as everything as a prop to keep up the grift. And that just goes back to they're faker than the tits on the whores at Access Vegas. Crass, but an absolutely correct statement of who these people are.
Well, I kind of close out this chapter with I'll talk about women who abuse Christianity. He says, the group of women is the single largest reason for the shit sex lives plaguing Christians today, more than any other previous group mentioned before. They are women who abuse Christianity to secure commitment and financial stability from men through marriage, while having no intention of having sex with them, because frankly, these women don't like sex. And two paragraphs, skip a paragraph down, he says, the problem is when a woman uses the promise of sex to hoodwink a guy into marriage, then spends the rest of her life avoiding it, having it as little as possible, getting fat, or otherwise depriving her husband of a good and fun sex life. He doesn't get laid, but she gets commitment and financial stability. While this tactic is not unique to Christian women, Christianity has traits that lend itself well to creating these type of women.
Plutarch, why does it work that way in Christianity?
Well, it's tempting to say because we let it, but that's not really the answer.
You touched on the answer before. Who's in charge? Who has the power?
The woman.
Woman or the Christian man? Does a woman ever have sexual desire for a man she can control and who she dominates?
Impossible.
No.
It's impossible.
Cappy's not saying it directly, but he just described the problem in Christianity, in Christian families. The woman is actually in charge, not the man. And it would not be this way if the man was actually dominant and had frame, and she was truly submissive to him, did what he said. Now, let me ask you this to illustrate my point. Who has more authority over a woman, her husband or her boss? Who has more authority over her in our modern world?
Well, the boss.
In the biblical world, according to God, the Bible, natural law, who really has more authority?
Husband.
The husband. The husband has the authority to tell her what to do. The boss isn't also ran, whatever. He's got no legal authority over her. Yet she will listen to her boss, but she will not listen to her husband. I might even go so far. She probably has more desire to have sex with her boss than her husband.
Tacticus. Steve, here's another answer. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, that's a good one. But you know what? Her therapist just tells her what she wants to hear. So that makes her her own boss.
Girl bosses are gonna girl boss. In it, so Cappy's. There was something in here, and this goes back to something I said at the beginning of the show. And this is Cappy closing out this chapter. He says, and not only should those posers and the rest of the world fuck off, every real Christian man has every right to unashamedly admit you want a hot wife with big tits and long hair in the kitchen. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. And I completely agree that there's nothing wrong with wanting that. And it's okay to tell all of the various people that he spent this is the longest chapter of the book, by the way. And he spent, all those various groups of people he described before. You have an absolute right to tell them all to fuck off.
That's the attitude of dominance and power that a man needs. Right there.
The frame that he needs to talk about more in the book.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of quotes in that chapter I want to go through, but I'm just, for the sake of time, going to move on.
Well, we don't want to give away the whole book because we want people to buy his book, read it, and think about it.
Correct. Chapter 6, How a Sex Life Should Work. Here, the author breaks down this chapter mostly into 5 steps, arguing basically that good sex lives are as simple as chocolate chip cookies. It does not have to be complicated. And the 5 steps are: acknowledge desire is the foundation to all successful relationships. 2nd, be hot. 3rd, stay hot. 4, kick Jesus out of the bedroom. And 5, do whatever crazy, kinky shit you want.
I've covered be hot, stay hot. We know what I think, we know what we think on that. I won't cover it any further here. The rest of it, that's actually all true, though. If you have to make sex into something where you have to get on your knees in front of the bed and pray over it, and then all you're doing is the religious version of scheduling, of the secular sex schedulers. Yeah, and the secular. Well, it's literally performative action to try and convince the woman that you're worth having sex with. Don't do that. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad to pray to Jesus and all of that, but if you make Jesus the purpose of having sex, you've actually kind of missed the point.
He's kind of disguising something here. How a sex life should work. It's kind of like, what do men want? And what have I said? What do men want?
RSVP.
RSVP. Respect. Okay, that's kind of saying, yes, He's going to call the shots. He's going to be dominant, and she's going to go along with that and respect him for being the leader. Okay. And so, then she's going to want to please him, and she's going to be inclined to stay somewhat hot, fit. I mean, so he has discipline over her. He's going to say, yeah, that's maybe you shouldn't have that ice cream. Maybe we need to bring your desires back, your physical food desires into control. Sexual variety? Oh, yes. Cappy mentions that. Do whatever crazy, kinky shit you want. Okay, yeah, men want that. Sexual variety. Peace. Don't be nagging me. Don't be doing all that shit. No, I'm in charge. Just go with the flow. So, RSVP, is there any room for Jesus there? No. But yes, if a man is a moral man, if he's a Christian man, he knows what the rules are. He should count on his own morality, and she should not be moralizing him. So, you know what? He's going to conduct his life in a moral manner in general, at least more moral than the average woman. I'll die on that hill. So there is no reason for her to be moralizing him in the bedroom, which means kind of bringing Jesus into it.
I'm sorry, praying while you're. I've actually I've actually heard couples tell me that they pray while they're doing it.
Women do it all the time, Nick.
Oh, I know. I know where you're going.
Steve.
3 words.
OMG, right?
That would be it.
I'll know a quicker way to dry a woman up than praying right before you do the act. I'm not saying it's sinful to do. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to have the result you want.
Well, Nick, here, let me try this on you here. If having sex is a good and godly thing, is drying her up and making her question whether she wants to, is that a good and godly thing?
No.
Okay, well, just gonna
But,
leave
might
that.
find the weird couple out there where it works for them, and I'm like, okay, well, unicorn over there.
Right, yes.
You have no idea. They may say it works for them. They may have 0 sex life. Or it might work for
There's
them.
a lot of that.
Or it could be pretend. You have no idea because you're not in their bedroom. And by God,
Or
you
do I wanna
don't
be?
want to be there.
No. Well, anything else about the chapter before we move on to the last chapter?
No.
Nope.
All right. So his last chapter is chapter 7, Solutions, and I would argue that this is a bit of a sign of this not being a fully edited, polished work or a fully academic work. Not that the information here presented is bad. I frankly think the structure here sucks, even though the information is great. He helpfully does end up in a practicum, kind of a practical side to everything he's talked about. But in some ways, it's a continuation of chapter 6 with more force and drawing on the rest of the chapters that came before. Here in this chapter, he talks about many aspects in the solutions area. He breaks them down into actionable items, such as 3 categories here: actions, decisions both men and women must make, then actions and decisions only women can make. Then third, actions, decisions only man can make. Okay. The COA decisions are as follows: government bullet points, agreement. Other ones ignore anti-sex and anti-Christian propaganda. Third is be hot. Fourth is commitment to staying hot. Fifth, be change things. Six, spend time apart. Y'all want to address any of those right now?
So spend time apart. This is actually, I was actually reading this. And I was thinking about this.
I did too. I'm not sure if I agree all
Well,
the way.
I agree and I don't. So I work from home, and that actually has not been a huge problem for our relationship. However, I do occasionally leave for work trips. Part of the deal. Have more on the schedule this year. Not going to tell you all when they are. And the thing about those is, yes, Elena's not very big on lots of absence. She's and Cappy even says somewhere in here, and I don't have it highlighted, that there are some women who actually do okay with having their men around a lot. That's just a variation in the data. But I'll tell you what, guys, going away for a little while does work. She gets very handsy before and after. And so yeah, it's not her favorite mode, and she doesn't like it, but she kind of does like it. She likes that I'll do it. She likes that I don't she definitely likes that I don't apologize for doing it. So, it's the other thing we have to remember is, for the vast majority of human history, men worked from home. Now, home here could be the family farm, right? Most men worked in agriculture of some form for 4,000 years, and if they left for a limited time. That would be hunting trips with hunting parties. That would be, they have to go to the market in the town to sell their harvest. But the reality is that most men were actually home most of the time, and then they would go on these trips. And personally, I've found that with Elena, that works very, very well. I go off, I do my business, I execute my power, I'm away from her, I'm focusing on other things, but then I come home and it's done, and that's over. So that's just my personal experience with it. I would say it does have value in some circumstance, in limited circumstances.
There's also a daily aspect of this. Because Plutarch, in case you didn't know, he's a farmer. And he says, okay, I got to go out and plow this field. Don't bug me. I'm out plowing the field. Don't bother me when I'm plowing the field. Oh, yes, you can bring me lunch.
No, yes, you can.
Okay, now it's time for me to go back and plow the field. Oh, okay. You can come back around when it's time for me to eat again. We can talk a little bit. Then I got to go back and plow that field. And so his task is going about his business, and she's sent away. So that's time apart. Even though you're in proximity, it's about his task, and she has to just tend to herself.
It's funny you bring that up, because after lunch and dinner, I will end dinner by saying, okay, I have to go back to work now. Even though I work from home, even though my door is open, because I work with computers and it would get sweltering if I didn't leave it open. It's still very much, okay, this is lunchtime, this is, whatever. And then, nope, back to work. Right. And I have Elena trained pretty well. She doesn't bother me that much when I'm working. She does occasionally because she's a woman and she literally cannot help herself. Guys, women are women. That's never going to change. But for the most part, she actually does leave me alone. And I get quite a bit of work done for her willingness to do that.
Since this is co-ed decisions, we've talked about men going out. What about women going out, spending time apart? I actually don't think that's a good idea.
No, it's not. And I travel for work. Elena does not. She actually spends more time at home than I do.
Women are going to be
What
influenced
what happens
by
when
their
women go out?
surroundings.
And they what happens when women go out? There's actually a Bible verse about, their feet not staying at home.
They're
Not a good
subject
thing.
to influence when they're out and about.
Influence. That's that's a very PG way of Steve making a point. I'm surprised, Steve. Tell us what you really think.
I think that covers it.
You're not gonna get it there, Nick. I
Aw.
guess we've used up our budget for crass this show, maybe.
Girls' night out, girls' trip, going on business, staying at hotels, away from her man. Well, let's just say there's a lot of temptation out there, bad influence. Sometimes for them, what stays on girls' trip tries to stay on girls' trips. There you go. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, for a man, spending some time apart can be good, but on the flip side, for women, especially if you're married, it's not a good thing. Then there's
All I
under
have to say,
women's act. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, guys, yes, Elena does spend more time at home, which is why she went through all the same training with all the same retired military vets that I did. I'm just putting that out there. Just so, just because a woman stays home, look, as men, we have to go on trips. We have to do things. So Elena is taken care of in that she knows how to take care of herself when I'm not around. But that also means that she much prefers that I be around because, frankly, she really doesn't want to do that. So she, and I like the fact that she spends more time at home than I do. I think that's a good and healthy dynamic. Now, yes, she does the food shopping. Guess what? She's a woman. Sorry, feminists, I said it. But she enjoys that, so she can have that. I don't need to do it. I got work to do.
Okay, so next on Cappy's solutions, there's things labeled under women's actions decisions, and I'll list them. Admit whether you want sex or not. 2, do not bait and switch a man for marriage, commitment, or resources. 3, remove shame from sex and stop worrying about what other people think. 4th, quit consuming feminist and Democrat anti-male propaganda. Then next is talks about prescription drugs and birth control. It's worth looking into. Talks about drugs and alcohol. Then last, he talks about lingerie and cooking. And basically, admit if you want sex or not. He says, well, if you don't like it, don't get married, basically. Don't do it.
I completely agree with everything in this chapter. I think, and I think Cappy realizes it given the way he wrote it, that women aren't actually going to do any of this on their own, and that men are going to have to drag a lot of this out of them, because in this part of the chapter, he's always talking about men. Okay, set us, ask her, just straight up ask her, or, use this strategy to try and figure it out. And then he says, and if she says no, you leave, you're done. Right. So I think he doesn't say, I don't think he says in here. Unfortunately, I was sick as I was reading this book. So, I don't think he straight up says in here that women are never actually going to do this, but he kind of admits it by how he talks about it, which is, it's probably maybe this part could be a little better written, a little better organized, but the general thing that he's trying to get across here is these are things that you as a man need to decide whether or not you care about them, and then you need to go to the girl and just ask her, more or less, figure out what you want to do, and if she doesn't agree with you, you're gone. And I think that's a perfectly valid way to approach it for a man, but the women really aren't going to decide to do this on their own.
Hey, don't bait and switch a man. Women want resources and all that crap. But what many don't even they don't even want sex, they just want the resources, and so they'll hook a man up with commitment, financial stability, and then they won't put out, basically. Don't even do it. He says, resist the temptation to bait and switch a man with sex you have no intention of having. Otherwise, your life will be miserable and a waste one. His probably will be too. He basically says, don't buy into the shame. It's not wrong for wanting to have sex. Okay, got it. He talked about feminist, Democrat, anti-male propaganda. It's pretty much unrelenting. It poisons women's minds to some level against men. He says women really need to stop consuming anti-male, anti-sex propaganda because you can't fall in love or have a good sex life with someone you hate.
Should be an obvious truth, but apparently we have to say these things. Sad.
He talks about prescription drugs and birth control, how they can impede your sex drive. He says you might want to consult your doctor about the drugs you're on. Okay. We've talked about birth control here. Steve has many things to say about that, so you can look up some of our podcasts that talk about birth control, and you'll probably hear Steve talking a lot about the ins and outs of that and how it can affect a woman.
It's women are not machines. You can't change her cycle with hormones and not have it change numerous things in her perception and outlook and everything.
I'll skip the drugs and alcohol. I didn't really think that part was too necessary. Yeah, okay.
Now, I want to say something in general about this.
Okay.
It's a list of women's actions, decisions, and he approaches it from an intellectual, reasoning based thing. Oh, do these things. She should, implying she should understand these things. Expecting a woman to behave any particular way according to logic or reasoning is an exercise in folly. It just doesn't matter. You can talk logically and use facts and everything to convince a woman to, oh, this is the way we should do it. Well, first of all, she's going to resist agreeing with you. And even if she does agree with you, it's not going to make any difference. So forget about all this. All that really works with women is dominance and frame control. If you're in charge and she has to abide by your rules and you frame everything, women are pliable. Women will be influenced. And they don't decide things based on logic or reason.
Okay.
Not that I disagree with what Cappy says. I just think, yeah, that and whatever else you want to say is not going to change reality in the least when it comes to the behavior of a wife.
Skip to lingerie and cooking. I'm actually going to slightly disagree with Cappy here. He says, your man, no matter how great a Christian he is, wants to have sex with other women. He says, it's a hardwired biology. He wants to have sex with as many women as possible. Yeah. I'm not saying married men can't be aroused and appreciate the attention of other women, but this falls into making the fallen condition of man, where he has lust, that it can't be, tempered. Hey, of course it can be tempered, but do all men really? I'm not sure if he's trying to say this, but if he's trying to say this, I'm going to disagree. Not all men want to have sex with many women.
No, I mean, I'd rather know one woman well than numerous women fleetingly. They're all kind of have the same equipment, okay? It's not better with a different one. It's not even different when a different one. It's better with one you know and one who is willing to have some variety and understand how that person reacts, what they like. I mean, there's no end to the exploration that you can have with one person you know very well. Now, why would you want to go for some fleeting thing that's I just don't see how it's going to be better. Unless you're a guy, oh, it's about the conquest. Okay, fine. Have at it. It's not me.
Honestly, being married, I take a simpler view of this. I have no interest in putting that much effort into a woman. And particularly because if you have multiple, you have to put a lot of effort and energy into all of them. I have my mission. I have my stuff that I'm doing, and it's time intensive. Frankly, I just don't find the thought of having to put all that time and effort into managing multiple women appealing. I've got one. I get what I need from her. And that allows me to keep working on my mission. And that's part of what keeps her around, is because I put my mission ahead of her.
Hey, there's a great advantage to that. she brings you lunch, or at least she cooks it and says, lunch is ready.
Yeah.
So sex and the kitchen does come in handy. Not necessarily at the same time.
Well, he says you throw on a cute lingerie outfit while you're cooking, the man will die for you.
Well, okay. Elena will tell you that the tighter her clothes, the more spanking she gets. So it's just true. Can't argue with it.
And she just likes the attention, right?
Of course she does. She's a woman.
I think Cappy right here just talk. He's going down. He's basically telling the women, stop being such a prude.
Yes.
Stop being such a prude. He says, your man, if he's a good one, doesn't like getting under the car to change the oil. Your man doesn't like cleaning the long hole pencil shooters or whatever you call it. After sighting the scope so he can he can unalive people who try to rob your home or murder you. Dang it. Unalive you. I'm trying to quote this without being YouTube friendly. Anyways, he does all
Yeah,
this.
Cappy didn't make it easy.
It's not that you don't like it or that he don't like it. You do it because the other person likes it. So he's basically like saying, suck it up. He does stuff for you, even if he doesn't like it. So why is it such a big deal to put on some lingerie? And by the way, you actually will probably enjoy it. I don't know if I don't think he actually said that, but chances are the woman will probably enjoy it. Yeah.
He does those things because it's his duty.
Right.
He does his duty. Just tell the woman, do your duty. And that includes being sexually available and attractive to your husband. That is a duty. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not going to make you feel good. Well, actually, if you embrace that thought, it may give you some sense of satisfaction and willingness to do your duty, and then it won't seem like such a chore.
Talking to men, it makes sense. But hey, a woman in her fifis who don't need no man and is so independent. Oh, how dare a man ever have expectations of her? She's the table. Yeah. We'll go down to men's actions now. He said we've talked about this before. Be hot or go home. Second says be good in bed. Probably not a bad idea to study how to be good in bed and figure that out. Understand biology, maybe read up on that. Not a bad idea.
You won't hurt anything by studying this. You will not hurt anything.
Right. 3, test her appetite for sex. All right. There's an interesting point here. He says, unless your woman is emphatically all on board with lingerie, you will have an anti-sex prude on your hands, and you need to get rid of her.
There's some truth to that statement, though. That is a very practical way of determining a woman's views on sex. It's not foolproof. None of these are foolproof by themselves. But if you run in, particularly with a Christian woman, if you run into a Christian woman who thinks that's sin, run. A, she's wrong, and B, you now know.
I have a parallel with my second wife. Early on, we practiced mutual nudity and discussing things and just okay. I actually prefer the nude female body more than the female body in lingerie. Okay, so it happened, and okay, we got busy once in a while, but it was a natural thing. And then, as things went to shit or the sex life declined, she would refuse to be naked or completely avoid that. And the communication and honesty and sharing and closeness declined dramatically, as of course did the sex life.
Well, in Genesis,
And
they're naked and unashamed, right? And then when they
right,
stop being naked and
have you heard about the naked truth?
yep,
Yes. And so it is harder to lie, tell untruths when you don't have any clothes, because you're completely exposed and open. It does something to your psyche. So having this, this is really scandalous. But as a Christian, I advocate get naked with your wife and both sit there naked and have a conversation. Doesn't have to be about sex. It can be about anything. Yeah, hopefully it it can lead to sex, but that's not your motivation. Your motivation is closeness and honesty and open communication, which man, this is scary. Oh, getting naked and having a discussion. Oh my God, what if somebody sees us?
and what did they do after they had something to hide and were hiding from God in the garden? Well, they hid and they tried to clothe themselves. Yeah. So when a woman refuses to be naked in front of you, assuming you're married, right? Could it be that she's hiding something?
Oh,
That
what
she's
what
planning
did they
something?
do?
Or something she did she's ashamed of? Don't see, I wrongly bought into this lie. Oh, I have body image issues.
In
No,
the
no,
Old
no,
Testament, Nick?
no.
Few instances in when someone's very sorrowful. What did they do? The prophets. They
Or they would
rent their
rend them.
garments,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
So how did they tear their garments?
You tell me, Steve.
Generally, they would, they were wearing robes. They would grab the hem and rip it from bottom to top, basically exposing themselves. In form of penance, they donned sackcloth and ashes. Well, you're pretty naked when you're just wearing a sackcloth and you cover your body with ashes. Yeah, you're pretty exposed there. Now, that does symbolize something because Good Friday on at the crucifixion, when Christ died and gave up the ghost, what happened in the temple, Nick?
It was rent.
The curtain in the temple was rent
It's wrong.
from top. Oh, but this time it wasn't from bottom to top, because a human could do bottom to top. It was rent from top to bottom. Only God can reach up to the top. This is pretty damn high. They didn't have scaffolding. It was rent from top to bottom as a means of exposure to, basically make the Holy of Holies naked to the world. So their nudity or nakedness has a lot of symbolism in the Bible, and it's not all bad.
I agree, Steve. Now we're getting towards the end here. He says, choose your battlefield with three realities. There's three realities men need to understand. He says, the first one is 90% of marrying age women in the church are not Christians. Yeah, I tend to believe that. It could be worse. It could actually be worse than that. But second, church is actually a very bad place for Christian men to find Christian wives because of selection bias. I agree there too. And third, Western civilization is basically a sewer. Is it possible to find a prize muskie in a sewer? Sure. He also says, but the chances are incredibly low, and the muskie itself is inedible, likely poisoned by all the filth in the sewer.
And just to point out here, guys, I did option 3. And that was hard. It was a lot of work, a shit ton of money. And okay, everyone loves to talk about Russia, but one of the very first things I learned is that if you just go to St. Petersburg or Moscow, you're going to get a brand of feminism that makes American feminism look somewhat tame. Those women are vicious. So don't just assume that you're just going to go overseas and all the women are going to be, these nice Christian church mouse girls. Mostly no. Now, in the US, the odds are so bad that those women can be as bad as they are and still be way better than what you find here. It's just like if your chances are 1% here and 2% overseas, that 2% still represents a 50% greater chance. It's like, so you can do it, understand that it's a ton of work and a ton of money. And the frame required is actually greater than the frame required in the United States. These women will eat you alive if you do not have ironclad frame.
That's because they're more traditional. So maybe not Russia, but if you go to Romania, Hungary, they're not quite as modernized as the US. Oh, yes, the nature of women is exactly the same, but they're not quite as indoctrinated. So, yep, you're going to find potentially more or a higher quality woman there. But as Plutarch says, they are used to more dominant males. So if you as a US guy think, oh, I'm going to be the US nice guy and I'm going to go get a good woman. No, no. Hang it up. If you're going to go into a traditional culture, Eastern European, Russian, whatever, you better reach down, weigh your balls, and be a masculine man, because that's what they're looking for. And that's the only thing that works. Of course, it's the only thing that works really in the US, but it's even more necessary if you go elsewhere. Same is true of Asia or South America. You need to be more masculine than in the US. Yes, potentially your chances of success, if you're more masculine, are higher. If you're the nice guy from the US, thinking they're going to love you for your niceness, your chances are worse. You're just going to be ground up.
Absolutely, Steve. Out. Absolutely. Those women will eat you alive. And in fact, the particularly the looks maxing culture is an almost uniquely American phenomenon. When you get
His fifth
overseas,
option.
what, Nick?
That's his fifth option.
Yes. When you get overseas, you find that these women are much more open about the fact that they really just want powerful men. I would consider it a more honest and more traditional view of and that it comes from their more traditional views of life. Because any man with lots of power can give them what they want, but the man with the ripped muscles, frankly, you'll find that the majority of them, again, they don't want overweight slobs. I'm not saying that you can weigh 400 pounds and find a 95-pound Filipina. No, but if your entire game, so to speak, with women is based on your looks, you will fail over there. They're not that interested. They might toy around with you, but they will not stick around with you. So while I would say that that's moderately true in the United States, because there are definitely lots of women in the U.S. who make looks the highest goal of a man, you're not going to find many of those women overseas. They are, it's called The Beautiful People. It's based on a Stanford experiment with mice done back in the 50s, I think. But because the U.S. is such a luxury economy, we can afford to have an entire group of women who do nothing but care about the looks of men. Most of these women come from economies where they can't even get that close. They need a man who's powerful to survive. So and frankly, that's been the truth of human history for all of human history, with very rare exceptions. A little bit of the high Roman period, obviously today, and a little bit of the high Egyptian periods. But for most of human history, women have needed powerful men over beautiful men.
That brings up an aspect. A powerful man in the U.S. is seen as a threat to a woman, when in most of the world, a powerful man is an asset to the woman.
Yes, absolutely.
And it actually is that way in the U.S. If you're a powerful man, no, she's not going to view you as a threat. She's going to view you as an asset, or maybe a prize. Or, oh, yes, why does she want to be with a powerful man? It's to her benefit. It's not to her detriment.
I agree with you guys. I think most guys are going to still be stuck with the option one, though. If they're looking for a woman, they're most going to stuck trying to find one domestically.
Oh,
But again, it's like,
yeah,
it's fishing in a polluted pond, extremely polluted pond. You have to vet very heavily, screen for warning signs and red flags.
Oh, yeah, of
All you have to
course.
do to screen out a marriageable woman is to be upfront, honest, normal man. Maybe they're pretty dubious too.
Don't look for a good woman. They don't exist. Seriously. Okay, this is a nuance. If you're looking for a good woman, you will never find one. You have to look for a woman with the potential to follow you. Oh, yeah, obviously she shouldn't be a run through 304. But by being under a man's dominion, he will make her into that woman. So if you're looking for a ready-made woman, you'll never find one. And if you think you did, she's pulling the wool over your eyes. She's LARPing.
Oh no, we lost.
Well, Nick dropped out. So let's just move on. The other options. There's 3 other options. Okay. So you got married. She's not putting out. You have 3 options. The 3 I'm going through your last point. The 3 options are leave your sexless marriage, basically divorce her. Plan B, well, if you think that's the inevitable outcome, avoid this whole mess in the first place. Basically, have a long-term relationship without marriage, which is what Cappy's doing. 3, suffer. Just stay in the marriage and put up with it and just be that obedient husband. Just grumble and no, you're not getting any and you're not getting any younger. And just put up with it.
Steve, I'm actually going to say this, and it's probably not going to go over well with Christians, and even Nick might have a problem with it, but I'm going to say don't stay and suffer. That was an option I had in my first marriage. And I am eternally grateful that I did not take that option. I don't think it's worth it. We don't practice, as Steve loves to say, we don't practice marriage today as it was practiced in the Bible. So meh about the whole thing. Is it really a Christian marriage? That's an open question to begin with. And, this goes back to the whole concept of real world rules. Christianity is not practicing Christian marriage in any step of the process. So why is it that women get to behave just horrifically to men, but us men, well, the religious rules say we can't get to, we just got to stay here and she can do whatever she wants. Because, there's a parallel going on right now that, we could probably do a whole stream on, although I don't think we will, of the beautiful losers problem on the right. We have all these men in positions of power and all they want to do is lose. Well, it's kind of the same thing here. And why do they want to lose? Well, because we have to follow the rules. Well, your enemy isn't following the rules. Now, I'm not saying break your fundamental moral principles, but at some point you have to look at this and you have to go, I'm following the rules, but my wife isn't. And
she's not
even in
out, and she continues not to put out. She essentially abandoned the marriage.
Right. Even the Bible would say that she's done. Like the Bible gives you, like, as Nick said, abandoning the marriage. Well, okay, the Bible says you can leave. Why are you staying? Well, it's not because of biblical rules, and it's not because of secular rules, but because the capital C church, the institution of the church has convinced you that you have to stay anyway. No, you don't.
Your own moral compass. Because a man has great trepidation in going against his vows. He vowed to be married to her for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do they part. He takes his vows seriously because he took those before God. And he's letting that govern his secular view of things. A woman doesn't have the same understanding. There's religious rules and there's secular rules. Once she decides, yeah, I don't like this anymore, she's going to go with the secular rules and leave. So her threat of leaving is the sword of Damocles over his head, which causes him, I better not upset her. I better, get along, kiss her ass, whatever. Maybe I'll get a pity fuck once in a while. But she basically has the power because he knows she's willing to leave. Or the minute a woman threatens divorce, then the man, okay, Should we go to counseling? Should we do this? And he starts to pursue her because she's got all the power. Now, the point is that is destructive. When the man makes it known that, okay, if you're not doing your duty, I am going to leave. Now he takes that power away from her. And it's really important for the man to have the power, the dominion. He can say, you know what? If you're not measuring up, get out. You're free to go. Get out of here. They can just, oh, is this divorce? Not necessarily. You can just send her on her way. Say, you know what? We're living apart. You're not living in my household. Oh, I don't care if we get divorced, but you're not here. We can get an annulment or we can just live separately, but you're not living under my roof. That's the power the man needs to have. And if he has that power, it actually means it's more likely that they'll stay together. Right, Plutarch?
Absolutely. Marriages only stay together when the man has power. That's just the way it works. And, okay, so Luke Nielsen in the chat, I want to pull this up because this is a good comment. The main problem is, even in the hardcore religions on marriage, like Catholics and Orthodox, they give excuse for the women all day long, and they will hold to the man to task all day long. I've seen it. Yeah, Luke, you've seen it. I've seen it. Nick has seen it. Steve has seen it. We have all seen it.
Absolutely.
And
that's true.
We know that it does not matter where we know that it doesn't matter where you go in the church. All the churches will tell you that they don't behave like this. The orthodoxies love to tell you that they don't behave like this. And then you get to the church and you find out that actually they really do. And so, we've watched the debates between Andrew Wilson and CGA and Rich Cooper. And frankly, we have watched Andrew time and time again make statements that they paint the church with a rather rosy brush. He doesn't understand the data at all. We actually, during the debate with Rich Cooper, we actually discovered a mistake that he made with the data that I don't think he realized he made. It was just he didn't understand.
2 mistakes.
Yeah.
He cherry picked the data and it used the wrong definition.
Correct. Yeah.
I found other data that just doesn't coincide with what he was claiming.
Right. And it is our view that in general, the church writ large, Protestant, Orthodox, or Catholic, today does not comport with biblical religion, with biblical teachings on marriage. It doesn't really matter where you go. We would actually like to have a discussion with Andrew Wilson on this.
Good choice of words.
I don't
want to have a debate. We want to have a discussion to explore the issue.
Yeah.
Not hammer each other over the head. That's not our style.
Luke, exactly. I mean, I've talked to LDS people. They will tell you up and down that they are pro-masculine marriage. And then you read in even a little bit into LDS church doctrine, and you find out that is hysterically untrue. He is trying to convert people to Orthodoxy by marriage. I don't think that's primarily what he's trying to do. But we think that it is our view that he has some pretty fundamental misunderstandings of the data, and some fundamental misunderstandings of what men are doing and are doing and what they're up against in even the Orthodox Church. But finally, he really, I don't think, recognizes this concept that in trading we call risk of ruin. And it's one of it. This is something that you can really only understand if you've either spent an enormous amount of time with the data or you've actually gone through a divorce. But one of the things that has come up in every discussion I've had with a divorced person is that the first one is the worst one. That's the one that fucks you up the most. The second and third ones, you kind of know how it's going to go. So it's not as bad. You know what to expect. And so it turns out that for the average man, the worst possible situation is to get divorced at all. And so all of a sudden saying, oh, well, the divorce rate in the Orthodox Church is only 9%. Yes. And Steve has talked about this with his experience in the Catholic Church. Because the Orthodox Church takes such a dim view of divorce, the woman has to work harder at proving that she needs the divorce. And so she will throw more at you. And I don't think he's thought about this at all. I don't think he knows that this is a thing that even happens. And that's why I said discussion. I don't think there's a debate here. I think there is an entire universe of data and experience that Andrew is entirely unaware exists.
Women follow, men do too. People follow incentives. And if something is forbidden, can't do that, can't get divorced, unless he's just done some horrendous things. Really horrendous. Now, guess what? Infidelity is not big enough to fall in the horrendous category.
Can't really hear you, Steve. You're fading in and out there.
Oh, okay. Oh, he has to do some horrendous things to justify it, for her to justify it. And sorry, infidelity is not horrendous enough to justify. Not in a really staunch Catholic woman, maybe other Christian, Protestant, It's got to be much worse than that. Oh, he's got inclinations. He did some bad things or wants to do some bad things with children or some kind of horrendous abusive claim or whatever. It's it's reputation destroying. And because that's the only way she can hold her head up and go back to church. Oh, yes, you see, I just had to because he was such a bad man. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right.
Nobody's thought about that. And there are no studies on it. There will be no studies on it. Nobody wants the facts on this. But observing the horrendous silver bullet divorces in among religious people versus non-religious people, oh, it's way worse among the religious people.
To the point where we've actually said that in some cases, in some senses of looking at the data, it can actually be better to not marry a religious woman because statistically she is actually less likely to do that to you. Okay.
Welcome to the dystopian wasteland.
Yes, exactly. Luke, there are plenty of Orthodox and Catholic men that are miserable. They aren't allowed to divorce. Yes, that's what we were talking about. So they suck it up and suffer. And they won't tell us.
I was one of them, but I wasn't Catholic and Orthodox. I was Presbyterian, but yeah.
Oh, there's lots of us who were in the Presbyterian. They are there. Honestly, that's why I would say That's why I say it's okay to leave your sexless marriage. She's already abandoned it. And yes,
She's
I
not a
know the
Christian.
church.
If she's not going to have sex with you and she doesn't listen to any admonishment,
Yeah.
and
The
good luck bringing the elders
irony,
in, because then that's where she invents a bunch of crap and
the
all the
paradox
rascals
is
no.
by claiming that power, the divorce is less likely. It's a paradox.
Yeah. Women love power. What can we say?
Well,
but there will
let's-
be a
let's-
bunch of what, Nick?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there will be a bunch of women who are so used to living life on Easy Street, they don't have to do anything, but they get all the benefits that they will get their hackles up and they actually will leave. And for those men, I would say, congratulations, you just got your life back. So honestly, I would say even if the church doesn't condone it, honestly, for a lot of you guys, leave anyway. Because the religious rules say one thing, but the Bible actually says something other than what the religious rules are saying. And you're a Christian, you believe the Bible. The church is a vehicle to deliver the Bible to you. The church is not, it does not sit in authority over the Bible. And I think a lot of churches forget that. So,
Well, let's get back to finishing out this review of Cappy's book. Any closing thoughts?
I think I just gave them.
Yeah, okay. My internet was in and out.
Okay, yeah, I have some closing thoughts.
There you go, Steve. Go ahead.
Buy the book. I think it's a good book. I think Cappy outlines the problem and the circumstances and the experience and captures all that very well. When it comes down to the solutions, I think that's a little bit weaker. I think there could have been a better job done, but I don't think that is possible either. I don't think I could have written a better book. I think the primary goal of the book, which it very much succeeded in, is outlining the problem. Coming up with a solution, we all have our opinions on the solution. And it's going to take a lot of discussion and time to work through that. But the primary task is to raise awareness for what's actually going on. That's the reason you should read this book. It'll get you thinking and accepting what in reality is going on, and you're not alone in perceiving this. And then discuss it with other men to come up with the solution. And as we said, it's not Money Muscle's game. I would phrase the solution is in masculinity, frame, and dominance, which is not overtly discussed. Okay, that doesn't mean I disagree with Cappy. He might agree with that too. He's viewing it from a different perspective. Maybe there's a better perspective, maybe not. That's open for discussion.
I'll pretty much agree with pretty much with all that Steve says. You should get the book. It's great. Yeah. Be hot. Yeah. Sure. Take care of your body. Do what you can. Don't obsess over it, though. I mean, yes, get exercise. Go walk. Go to the gym if you need to. Don't be a fat slob. Take care of your body. Sure. Looks maxing is not the be all end all. I don't think. I'll reiterate my co-host here. I'll steal his phrase, Plutarch's phrase. Frame Uber alles. Which is Plutarch?
Frame above all.
There you go. Well, that's all I got for you guys tonight.
Well, I think we've just done the longest review of Cappy's book.
Probably true.
By the way, Cappy approached Nick, asked him to do the review. He brought it to us. We said, yeah, we'll do the review. We said, yeah, okay, we don't want to be paid for it. So he brought that message back to Aaron Clary. Aaron Clary says, wow, really? Yeah, we're not being paid for this review. And in fact, we each bought a copy of his book. We didn't even get free copies of the book. So this is an honest review. We're not being paid for this. We gave our opinions. Yeah, in general, we agree. And we gave our criticisms of the book along the way. Okay.
Send us to your Christian friends. Encourage them to buy the book. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave us messages in the comments, and we will try to respond as soon as we can. We do have jobs, so this is not our full-time job being on YouTube and streaming, so we'll get to them when we can. Thank you guys for listening. And please join us this Saturday on Elena's Bar Fitness at 9:15 Pacific, 11:15 a.m. Central. With that, hope you all have a good night.
Later.
There was a firefight! Son of a bitch!